You are in the Temple of the Rants, where I rant about whatever my $15 a month plus patrons want me to rant about. You can get one of these by being one of those. This one's for Nico Randell, who says, rant about BoJack Horseman. Do you think it deserves to be called the best modern Western cartoon, or is it overrated? If you haven't seen most or all episodes of BoJack, then rant about Rick and Morty instead. Well, I saw the first season of BoJack. I definitely thought it was overrated. I thought it was good, but I just don't quite understand the level of hype for the show because I don't think it does anything so horribly unique. And people make it out like, oh, this show is such a spot-on portrait of depression and the downward spiral that faces people and stuff. And I'm like, is that new to you? Have you not seen a piece of art that communicates this kind of depression, this type of characterization? I mean, you can look at Welcome to the NHK, and you have a similar portrayal of a depressive downward spiral of self-destruction and the struggle to get out of it and to make something better of yourself. And in a context that's way more relatable because it's a regular guy and not a famous person. How is this so different from that as to be, and I don't know if it's just people who haven't seen that or other stuff that's like it. I just feel like an exploration of depression is not something so new to me that, that I'm like, wowed that this show did a decent job. I also don't necessarily like the kind of snarky, quippy humor that the show has, where it's just like characters saying funny things at each, very sitcom-y, like, it's just never been a style of humor that resonates with me that strongly. And not to say that Rick and Morty doesn't have a fair amount of that as well, but the kind of stuff that gets to me in Rick and Morty is like the existential shit, the crazy concepts, the sci-fi elements, like the rapid fire insanity that goes on. Like, that's more the appeal of it to me than the quippy back and forth dialogue that's just okay. I mean, it's just standard sitcom fare. I do think it's cool that these shows are more edgy than maybe previous generations of cartoons where, the characters have a little bit more depth and nuance, and the things they joke about are maybe more adult or more specific, at least. But, again, I like Rick and Morty because it's a crazy-ass sci-fi show that explores a lot of variety of themes. BoJack is mostly about this downward spiral of self-destruction. And it very much has, like, what I call, like, the HBO effect of it has to be as depressing as possible. Like, I don't know what it is about Western TV. This is an aspect of it I just don't understand. That, like, I think people interpret like drama as like just things have to go as wrong as possible all the fucking time. Like every peak has to be met with a valley. There's never a time where like things are just going well for the characters or like a sense of progression upwards. It's always about this going up, going down, going up, going down. And I understand that life is like that sometimes, but like to paint it so dramatically as like you're always either exalted or depressed. It's always either the like super like every cartoon is a manic depressed spiral, but like it's always to the extreme where somebody's gonna die, someone's gonna really fuck their life up, something really bad has to happen. Seasons always end on a down note in these kinds of shows, or they reach a rock bottom before a small glimmer of hope at the end, and like just Western shows always go this route. They're always just super fucking depressing, and it seems like people relate that with being good. When people say, oh, this show is so good, it's always like, oh, this show has a lot of really fucking heart-wrenching, depressing moments. And I'm like, how is that inherently good or better than, a more lighthearted show? One that doesn't try to, constantly fucking torture its protagonists. Like, it's not that I don't appreciate those types of shows, I just don't consider that to make it more exceptional, Rick and Morty, which is, like, my favorite Western cartoon, is, like, it has an ebb and flow where it's more nihilistic, it's more like, yeah, dark and dramatic things can happen, but they're not really dwelled on, they're not, like, considered the end point, or, the show's not trying to constantly hit you in the feels or whatever. It's just like, most of it's just a rollicking fun time with a lot of clever ideas. Again, it's more of a sci-fi series in my mind than just a pure sitcom. Yeah, I don't know. I do think BoJack's good. Don't get me wrong. It's just not like my type of show. It's not the kind of show that I was excited to watch another season of. Granted, I also barely remember the first season because I marathoned it with a bottle of wine, and by the end, I was shit faced. I appreciated that it had death grips in it, and that like it was willing to get a little bit trippy when it really went into the head of BoJack and stuff in the later episodes. But like, I don't know, it didn't feel to me like a show that I was like, oh, I can't wait to see how this continues in season two. You know, uh, and now there's like 3 seasons, and the things I've heard about the show have just not made me want to watch it. Um, not to say that I wouldn't. Rick and Morty, I love, obviously. I've talked about it before. The first season I watched like 5 times. Second season, I never got around to rewatching it in full. I had watched the first 3 episodes a bunch before the rest of the season came out. And then season 3, I did the weekly viewing with Best Guy Ever, and I thought it was it was less consistent than the first 2, but overall, Rick and Morty's always been a good time. I worry about it. I think that if it keeps going, it will definitely degrade in quality just because so much of the talent gets poached. I think it's a show that can't probably hold up forever. It depends on if they tried to do something radically new with it, which I don't think they will. So, like, I don't know. I mean, the fact that they still take such long gaps, there hasn't been a season 4, and it's been like almost 2 years. Maybe that means it'll be good when it comes back, if it comes back. But, you know. I don't keep my hopes up. I don't generally prefer for shows to go on forever. I prefer for them to get out while the getting is good, but that's not generally how American TV works. So we'll see what happens.